The night Margaret Cole disappeared, Snow returned to Chicago, as if the city itself remembered what had happened to Amelia Hart. Only 48 hours earlier, Amelia had been abandoned on a frozen street by the man who called himself her husband. She had given birth in the back of a stranger's car, learned that stranger was her real father, and watched Derek Cole, the man who betrayed her, collapse beneath a mountain of evidence inside a glass conference room. For the first time in years, she thought the worst was over. She was wrong. At 2:17 in the morning, Amelia sat beside her daughter's crib inside the west wing of Hawthorne Estate. Amelia had named her Hope because after everything Derek had done, after every humiliation Margaret had thrown at her, this child was the one pure thing no one had managed to destroy. The estate was guarded by 12 security officers and cameras covering every inch of the grounds. Still, Amelia could not sleep. A mother knows when the darkness is watching. She reached into the crib and touched Hope's hand. "I promise," she whispered, "no one will ever leave you the way they left me." Behind her, the door opened. Victor Hawthorne stood in the doorway. In his hand was his phone. "Amelia," he said carefully. She turned. "What happened?" Victor looked at the sleeping baby before answering. "Margaret escaped custody," Amelia asked. "The patrol car was found abandoned near Lower Wacker. The 2 officers are alive, but drugged. Margaret is gone." A cold pressure settled behind Amelia's ribs. Before she could speak, the lights flickered. Then the security monitor on the nursery wall went black. Victor stepped forward. "Stay behind me." On the camera view of the front gate, something moved in the snow. It was not a person. It was a black envelope, pinned to the iron bars with a silver knife. Amelia felt the room tilt. They reached the entrance hall minutes later. Marcus Vale, Victor's longtime chief of security, arrived carrying the envelope with gloved hands. Marcus had been with Victor for more than 20 years. He was calm, precise, and loyal enough that Victor trusted him with his life. But when Marcus opened the envelope, even he went still. Inside was an old photograph. A little girl, no older than 2, cried in the arms of a woman dressed as a nurse. Behind them stood the burned shell of Westbrook Mansion, the Hawthorne family home Amelia had vanished from 22 years ago. On the back of the photograph, someone had written in black ink, "Your mother did not die because she lost you. She died because Victor lied." Amelia looked at Victor. For the first time since finding him, she saw fear in her father's eyes. "What does that mean?" she asked. Victor reached for the photograph, but Amelia pulled it away. "What does it mean?" Victor swallowed. "I don't know." And that was the first lie Amelia heard from him. By dawn, Amelia sat alone in Victor's study, staring at the photograph. The nurse's face was blurry, but there was something familiar about the way her hand gripped the child. Not gentle, possessive. Marcus entered quietly. "We identified the woman. Her name was Clara Bell. She worked as a pediatric nurse at Westbrook Mansion for 6 months before the fire." "Was she questioned?" Amelia asked. "She disappeared the same night you did." Amelia looked up. Marcus placed a file on the desk. "There is more. According to that report, the first alarm had been triggered in the nursery hallway. The fire started near my room?" "It appears so," Marcus said. Victor stood by the window, silent. Amelia turned to him. "You knew this?" Victor closed his eyes. "I knew there were questions." "No. You knew the official story was false." He did not answer. There it was again. Another crack. Another secret, Marcus continued. There were also 9 minutes missing from the internal camera recordings. Someone manually erased them before emergency services arrived. Who had access? Victor answered this time. Family, senior staff, and corporate security. Amelia's fingers tightened around the photograph. And Margaret? Marcus hesitated. That hesitation was enough. Victor said, Margaret attended a charity dinner at Westbrook the night of the fire. She was a guest of one of my board members. Amelia laughed once, but there was no humor in it. So my mother-in-law, the woman who treated me like garbage for years, was standing inside my childhood home on the night I was kidnapped. Victor whispered, Yes. The word landed like a hammer. Amelia stood. Then stop calling it a disappearance. I was taken. At the detention center, Derek Cole had not slept. Without his mother beside him, he looked smaller, almost boyish, as if wealth had been a costume someone had finally ripped off his body. When the door opened, he expected Margaret's lawyer. Instead, Amelia entered with Marcus and 2 officers. Amelia, thank God. You have to listen to me. My mother is insane. I didn't know half of what she was doing. Amelia sat across from him. Half? Derek's mouth closed. Marcus placed a recorder on the table and pressed play. Margaret's voice filled the room. Derek is finished. Let him take the blame. If they keep looking at my son, they will not look at me. Derek's face lost all color. The recording continued. Selena's voice trembled. But Derek knows about Amelia's necklace. Margaret laughed. Then Derek should have been smarter. Amelia leaned forward. What necklace? Derek stared at the table. Amelia removed the sapphire locket from beneath her blouse and placed it between them. The pendant had been with her since childhood, the only thing found with her when she was abandoned at an orphanage. Now everyone seemed willing to kill for it, Derek whispered. My mother saw it the first time I brought you home. Amelia's voice was steady. And? She said it looked like a hawthorn piece. Old family jewelry. She told me to keep you close until she figured out who you really were. You married me because of a necklace? No, Derek said quickly. I cared about you. She looked at him. He lowered his eyes. You knew I might be the missing child, Amelia said. You knew I had a family somewhere, and you said nothing. My mother said if we told Victor too early, we would lose control. Control of what? Amelia stood so fast the chair scraped backward. Marcus grabbed Derek by the collar before the officers could move. What did Margaret want with the baby? Derek choked. A blood claim. If Amelia was Hawthorne blood, then her child could be used. Trusts, inheritance, custody pressure. My mother said a baby makes a woman easier to corner. Amelia did not scream. Screaming would have been too small for what she felt. She leaned across the table and whispered, Tell me where she is. I don't know. Marcus tightened his grip. I swear, I don't know. But there was a place. When she was scared, she talked about a greenhouse. She said old rich families always bury their sins under pretty glass. Victor heard the interrogation from the other room. When Amelia came out, his face had aged 10 years. Westbrook had a greenhouse, he said. Your mother loved it. Then we go there. Victor shook his head. It burned with the mansion. Amelia held up the photograph. No, someone wanted us to think it did. They returned to Hawthorne Estate to prepare, but danger had already arrived ahead of them. Hope's nursery was empty. At first, Amelia did not understand what she was seeing. The crib stood untouched. The blanket lay folded. The mobile above it turned slowly, playing a soft lullaby no one had switched on. Then she saw the open window. Marcus pulled camera feeds onto the nursery screen. There, on the hallway recording, was the new night nurse pushing a bassinet toward the service elevator. Her face was calm, too calm. Another figure appeared behind her. Margaret Cole. She looked directly at the camera and smiled. Amelia stopped crying. Victor gripped her shoulders. We will find her. No, Amelia said. Amelia. No. Last time, everyone searched like billionaires. Lawyers, police, reports, press statements. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. This time, we searched like mothers. She grabbed the photograph again and studied every inch. A white wooden horse with one blue eye. Amelia Froze. I know that horse. I dreamed about it for years. A white wooden horse with one blue eye. I thought it was just a nightmare. Victor stepped closer to the picture and went pale. Your mother kept that horse in the greenhouse. The Westbrook greenhouse had a maintenance cellar. It was sealed after the fire. Sealed by who? Amelia asked. Marcus looked at Victor. Victor whispered, My legal team. Amelia looked at her father. How many secrets are still buried under my life? He had no answer. They reached the old Westbrook property before sunset. Behind the ruins, half swallowed by weeds and snow, stood the greenhouse. Amelia stepped out of the car. Victor followed with Marcus and 6 armed guards. At the far end, beneath a collapsed table, Amelia saw it. A white wooden horse. One blue eye. A flash passed through her mind. A woman singing, smoke in the hallway, hands lifting her, a voice saying, Don't cry, little heiress. Rich girls always survive. Marcus found the cellar door beneath a layer of soil. It opened with a groan. From below came the sound every mother would recognize. A baby crying. Amelia moved first. At the center of the room stood Margaret Cole, holding Hope against her chest. Margaret's chin lifted with the same poisonous pride Amelia had endured for years. Take one more step, Margaret hissed, and you will never hold her again. Victor raised his hands. Margaret, give me the child. Margaret laughed. Still giving orders, Victor? Even now? Amelia stepped forward. Margaret tightened her grip on Hope. I said stop. Amelia stopped. Good girl, Margaret said. You were always better when you remembered your place. Amelia looked at her daughter. My place is between my child and a monster. Margaret's smile twisted. Monster? Your father made me one. Victor's voice hardened. Do not use me to excuse what you did. What I did? Margaret spat. You Hawthorns destroy people and call it business. Your wife found out. She was going to expose the accounts, the offshore transfers, the board bribes. She thought she could ruin everyone and still keep her perfect baby safe. Amelia turned slowly toward Victor. His face told her Margaret was not inventing everything. Margaret saw it and laughed. There it is. The princess finally sees the rod in her castle. Victor said, Your mother was investigating corruption, yes, but I did not kill her. No, Margaret said. You only made enough enemies that someone else could. Amelia took the sapphire locket from her neck. Is this what you want? Margaret's eyes locked onto it. Yes, Amelia whispered. That is why you kept me close. That is why Derek married me. That is why you took my daughter. Margaret swallowed. Give it to me, then I give you the child. Victor said. Amelia, no. But Amelia had already noticed something. Margaret was not looking at the sapphire like jewelry. She was looking at it like a key. Amelia opened the locket. Inside was the tiny portrait of a woman with kind eyes. Her mother, Evelyn Hawthorne. Hope cried harder. Amelia's thumb slipped against the sapphire edge. Something clicked. The blue stone lifted. Inside the pendant, hidden beneath the gem, was a thin strip of dark film. Marcus took one sharp breath behind her. Amelia turned. Marcus was staring at the microfilm as if a ghost had climbed out of the grave. Marcus? Victor said. Margaret began to laugh. It was quiet at first, then louder, uglier, full of relief and terror. Oh, Victor, she said. You trusted him with everything. Marcus drew his gun. Marcus had already stepped behind Amelia, the barrel near her spine. Tell them to lower their weapons, Marcus said. Victor looked destroyed. Marcus, what is this? The end of your family myth. Amelia held Hope with her eyes. She did not move. Marcus spoke calmly. 22 years ago, Evelyn Hawthorne discovered more than bribes. She found the names of men who built Victor's empire through theft, blackmail, and forced bankruptcies. My father was one of the men ruined by them. He killed himself after Hawthorne lawyers took everything. Victor whispered, I never knew. Marcus smiled without warmth. Powerful men never know the bodies under their roads. Margaret said, You promised I would be protected. Marcus did not look at her. I promised you would be useful. Amelia understood then. Margaret had not been the mastermind. She had been greedy enough to open the door. Marcus had been patient enough to wait behind it. Why keep me alive? Amelia asked. Marcus answered, Because Evelyn hid the evidence before she died. We searched the nursery, the ashes, the orphanage records. Nothing. Then Margaret saw your necklace years later. She thought it meant money. I knew it meant proof. Victor took a step forward. Give me my daughter and granddaughter. Marcus pressed the gun closer. You still think this is about what belongs to you? Amelia looked at Margaret. You have two choices. Help him, and disappear as a footnote. Help me, and maybe my daughter remembers you did one human thing before prison. Margaret stared at Hope. Shame crossed her face. Margaret shoved Hope toward Amelia. Amelia lunged, catching her baby against her chest as the gun fired. Victor threw himself between Marcus and Amelia. The bullet struck Victor high in the shoulder. He fell against the boxes, blood blooming across his white shirt. The guards fired, but Marcus had already kicked over the lamp. Darkness swallowed the cellar. Amelia dropped behind an old desk, curling around Hope. Margaret screamed. Boots thundered. Glass shattered above them. Marcus was gone. A hidden tunnel door stood open behind the shelves. Victor lay on the ground, breathing hard. Amelia crawled to him. Dad, she whispered. Victor's eyes opened. He looked at the baby, then at Amelia, and pain twisted his face into something almost peaceful. I failed you once, he said. Not again. Don't talk like that. He gripped her wrist. Listen, do not trust the family records. Find your mother's diary. Where? His gaze shifted toward the ruined greenhouse above them. She kept it where beautiful things were allowed to die. Paramedics arrived before he could say more. Margaret was dragged from the cellar in handcuffs, no longer screaming. As officers pushed her past Amelia, she stopped. I did not know they would kill Evelyn, she said. Amelia looked at her. But you knew they would take me. Margaret lowered her eyes. That was answer enough. Hours later, while Victor was rushed into surgery, Amelia stood in the hospital corridor holding hope. Amelia heard only her father's final warning, find your mother's diary. No one in that corridor understood what Amelia understood in that moment. The fight had changed shape again. Derek had been cruel. Margaret had been greedy. Marcus had been patient. But someone older, colder, and closer to the original crime was still breathing, still planning, still hiding behind the story that Evelyn Hawthorne was dead. Amelia looked down at Hope and saw the tiny locket chain resting against the blanket. Her daughter had almost been used as a key to unlock money, blood rights, and buried crimes. That was when Amelia made a decision she would never say out loud. She would not wait for permission. She would not ask lawyers what was safe. She would not let powerful men translate her pain into paperwork. She would go back to Westbrook. She would find the diary. And if her mother was alive, Amelia would drag the truth out of every grave, every boardroom, and every smiling liar who had built a throne over her childhood. At the nurse's station, a television played the evening news. A reporter announced that Margaret Cole had been charged with kidnapping, obstruction, and conspiracy. Derek Cole had agreed to cooperate with investigators. Victor Hawthorne remained in critical condition. Then the broadcast glitched. For half a second, the screen turned black. White letters appeared. Stop digging, Amelia. Then came one more line. Your daughter is not the only child we can take. The television returned to normal. No one else seemed to notice. Amelia did. She held Hope closer, looked through the hospital window at the snow, and finally understood the monster was not chasing her from the past. It was standing somewhere in the present, waiting for her to run. Across the city, Marcus Vale climbed into a black car beneath an abandoned train bridge. His coat was torn. His hands were steady. A woman sat in the back seat, hidden behind a veil. Marcus handed her a small metal case. The girl opened the locket. The woman's gloved fingers tightened. Does she know? Not yet. Does she believe her mother is dead? Marcus looked out at the falling snow. Yes. The woman smiled. Good, she said. Then Amelia Hawthorne is still easy to break. In the hospital, baby Hope opened her eyes and began to cry again. And she would not run.